Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. Welcome to Behind the Veil. Y'all know what we do. This is a Tuesday night special edition. We have a wonderful guest, and I can't wait for you all to hear her story. I'm Stephen Williams. They call me the good bishop, but ain't nobody good but God. God is the only thing. Y'all know how it is. I pray that you've had a marvelous, marvelous day. And I pray you can hear me and all that good stuff. So we're coming in. We're coming in strong tonight. And it's going to be a lot of fun. It won't be as much fun as we do when we don't have a guest, because we got to act right. So to all the people, y'all make sure y'all act right tonight. I have a guest, and I don't want to be shamed. Hey, Marcella. Hey there. How y'all doing? Listen, I'm so happy. Listen, we got a wonderful guest, Dr. Jerry, Bishop Jerry. We got a wonderful guest tonight, and I can't wait to share it, share what we're going to learn. I want to make sure everything is on. Yeah. So this is sounding good so far. Listen, y'all know how we do. Again, welcome to Behind the Veil. Uh, this is I'm Stephen Williams. They call me the good bishop. Nobody's good like our God. And but I want to thank you all so much for joining me and let me come into your space. Y'all know how we do it. I got a song of the week. Y'all know I'm always writing a song. I write a song a week almost, at least it feels like it. So uh, Bishop Jerry, you're gonna love this. This is probably some of the final production that's going to be on this one. And so this will be out on the radio sometime soon. Y'all pray for me in Jesus' name, and I'll get it done. And we'll make it so. But here is a song called I Got a Feeling That Everything Gonna Be All Right. Song of the week by yours truly. Hope y'all can hear that. Donna, I'll be calling you for this one. Donna, we gonna do this. Work it out. Don't do it. I got this feeling. I got this feeling. Wait up my come on, get out. Yes, sir. It's got that quartet beat. We doing this for praise and worship. Y'all feeling that? No matter the things, I must give him the praise. No matter the night, I got a feeling, know it's gonna be alright. No matter what I see, I got the victory. I move on the highway, move on down, 'cause I know he can break me out. I got this feeling. Anybody got the feeling that he will? He gonna work it out for you. I said I got a feeling, this feeling, way down in my soul. Pastor Alberta, we doing this one at GBC. Come on, Bishop. What's going on, First Lady Jennifer? I can't wait to do this. Come on, let's go to church. He will. I got this feeling that he will work it out. Yes, sir. That's coming out real soon. That's the music to it, and I can't wait to redo it. It's going to be so much fun. Thank y'all for joining me. That's the song of the week. I got a feeling that God going to work it out. I hope you got that same feeling down in your toes. Listen, again, welcome to Behind the Veil. I'm Stephen Williams. They call me the Good Bishop. Nobody's good like our God. Boy, do I have a wonderful guest for us tonight. I can't wait. When I met her some years ago, she was pastoring in Rockingham, y'all. I'm talking about Rockingham, North Carolina. The whole Rockingham is outside the county line. It's just Rockingham. It's just down there. That's where I'm from. And so I was trying to get out, and somebody was in, and I was like, Lord have mercy, somebody from Rockingham. And so I have been wanting to talk with her, and I got briefly to just speak with her momentarily. All I can tell you is I didn't do all the background work. I didn't do all that background work, but we're going to get to know this woman of God. She is the honored pastor of Exodus Baptist Church, and we'll talk a little bit more about that and how she got there. But welcome to Behind the Veil. Y'all send some likes, send some love, and I'm going to get it right. Tembila is what I want to do. Tembila.
That's right.
Christine Covington. I think I saw all of that. Tembila, Christine Covington.
That's right. Good evening. Good evening.
Welcome to Behind the Veil. I am so honored to have you as my guest tonight. And we talked very briefly, y'all. And I can't wait for you all to hear the story. And then I can't wait to hear the story. As I forestated, she was a pastor that was up here in the Winston area, and she was pastoring down in Rockingham. And what was intriguing, so we're talking about ladies right now that lead, ladies that actually lead. And she is or was the president of the Ministers'
Ministers Conference of Winston-Salem and vicinity. I was. My term ended December 31st, 2022. That's
so
right.
Y'all, she ran the Ministers Conference here. And we saw her. Pastor Alberta is on here. We ran in. We were just at, I think we in Rowan together. And she ran up to her and hugged her at the breakfast. Remember, we were at the breakfast in Greensboro.
That's right.
And so we got a chance to see her over there. And so welcome. And I can't wait, y'all. We getting ready to start this off. We kicking it off because we talking to a pastor, a female pastor who runs this thing and has been in charge for a little bit, and we're going to talk about her journey. I will tell you this, we're going to start from here. She said she was born in California.
That is true.
And then she went where? Where did you go from there? And then let's pick up the story right there, because I'm interested.
All right. Well, good evening. Thank you so much, Bishop, for having me here on this evening. What an honor. What a pleasure to be here. Greetings to each and every one of you. Yes, so I was born in California, and as a toddler, moved to a country in West Africa, namely Burkina Faso. That is the homeland of my father, and I was reared there until I graduated from high school before I came back to the United States. So that's where I had been raised, and that's home to me.
Wow. So tell me about the culture, because everybody, we want to visit, but tell me about the culture before we get there, so we know we're going to go to Africa and then we come into high school. All right, that's our
Well,
story.
well, let's start with the culture. So one thing I do not have to do when I wake up in the morning in Burkina Faso is to consider that I'm black, because everywhere I'm going to go, it's black folk. So that's the first thing about that culture, is that I don't have to even be concerned or consider how I must act, what I must say, and how I must do it. I am black with everyone else who is black. So that is the culture of Burkina Faso. So that is certainly my homeland, and um, having lived there, it is such a humbling experience, um, because there are things that we experience and that we learn in Africa that we do not learn here. One thing we know is that community involves everyone. Everyone is auntie, everyone is uncle. Now, some may be able to speak to that, but we don't see that now here in the United States. But there it is still. Everyone that is older than me is either auntie or uncle. And
Wow.
everybody's a cousin, everybody's a brother, everybody's a sister. So it's community. Everywhere you go, everyone certainly looks out for each other. And we have a tight bond, a tight connection with one another. And it's colorful, it's beautiful. Some people go to Africa and say, well, I've been to the open market, and I couldn't stand too much the smells of the livestock and all the rest of the things. But let me tell you, for me, that smells like home. So I can't say much other than, it's a place that I call home, and certainly am honored to have had the opportunity to have been raised in an environment where, community is at the forefront in everybody's mind, and how we act is all about community. Matter of fact, my name, Tembila, I was named after my paternal grandmother, and my first name means little village. And the names that are given to children are generally of their grandparents, or they have a meaning. They are associated with the meaning of that season, or whatever circumstance that was going on. And so I truly believe that, having been called Tembila, little village, that I am to walk in this purpose, and that is to be part always of community and part of the village. So that is the culture that I live with, and so certainly honored for.
Now, do you cook any of the foods still, or are
Oh,
you Americanized now? I mean,
no,
what's going on?
no. Well, yeah, I am Americanized to some degree, but sometimes, when you start thinking about, some different foods, you got to go figure out how to get those ingredients, go to the international grocery stores, and hopefully find something similar to what you used to use to make some of the traditional meals. But yeah, it's not every day, but certainly during the holidays, still cook
So,
those
so what
meals.
is a dish? Because we from America. We don't know. We ain't been nowhere. Well, no. Let me not say we. I ain't
Yeah.
been nowhere. So what's a good dish that maybe we should be thinking about trying if we go to a real authentic?
If you go to an authentic African uh, restaurant,
Uh-huh.
Anything from West Africa that has to do with, so in Burkina Faso, we call it to, which is, and some may have seen it, it's like a paste. It's a paste that people have, and it's kind of like their starch to go with the sauce, right?
Yes, I've
And
seen people
so
do that.
that's right. So in the Mosi dialect, which is the More, we call it to, which is that paste that we use as its starch to go with the sauce. And generally, we have all kinds of different sauce. One that is my favorite is it's an okra sauce, and so for those that don't understand or like okra, I'm sorry, because I like it when it gets sure enough slimy. That's the best type of okra. I eat it straight from the vine without frying it, cooking it. I love to have it compounded in a dish so that it is slimy, and it's supposed to be able to cut. You got to have it slimy enough that you can cut it.
Oh God, no.
I know some folks are shaking their head, but I'm talking about something that I grew up off of. So that it's good food. It's good food.
Look, my grandmother used to have that slimy okra, and I would just walk right on out. I
No,
like
you can't
I,
do
I can't do it.
that. It's the best ever.
What good deal. And so some Evelyn says her ancestors are from Cameroon. Is
Okay.
that near you or
That's in
um
Central Africa. That's in Central Africa. So she's right near the equator. It gets real hot now. Africa is hot all by itself, but
she told me
when
she
you get
wanted slimy with tomatoes. That's what
you talking about Hakatash. Now that ain't that ain't that ain't what I'm talking about. Excuse me if I'm not proper, but but yes, the okra and tomatoes are good too. Now I eat that real good with some rice. So
Lord bless us. Lord, y'all see what we in for tonight. Y'all see what we in. I did an ancestry thing, and I joke on here all the time. I'm 94%, I think, Nigerian, and right up in that area.
mhm.
But then I found out I was 6% Irish. So I've been telling everybody I'm the black leprechaun, uh, and so they just scream at me. 94% African, but I pick up the 6%. So you do this thing in Africa. You
Right,
graduate
yeah,
from high school, and then
right.
you decide to come this way, or you wanted to go to school here. What was the transition like after
Right. So the transition was that. So my mother's American.
that?
And
Okay.
so, right. So when we grew up, so the agreement, from what I'm told, between my parents was that at some point she wanted to reintroduce us to the United States. So being the eldest, I had this opportunity to go to college in the United States. So that's how I came to the United States at that point. And I made a decision over time to just stay here.
Got you. Where'd you go?
I went to it was a community college, Clackamas Community College on the West Coast
Oh, you went back West
in,
Coast.
in Oregon. Yes, in
Oh,
Oregon.
you went up way away from that culture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't want to talk about his trauma with that.
Look, my brother, my youngest brother lived in Seattle, Washington, all Bremerton, Washington, and all that good stuff. And I was
Mhm.
like, boy, it rains out here. Lord
All the
Jesus,
time.
all the time. And so you go to this community college. And so I'm going to fast track a little bit, you all,
Yeah.
because I want to get into her leadership. Uh, and one of the areas that she is uh, uh, that I know now knowing your name and knowing your um, seeing you maneuver in this area.
Mhm.
Now I understand Little Village.
Right.
Now it kind of now it makes sense because it's like
Mhm.
I see you everywhere. I've seen you
Mhm.
in so many places, and I'm like, man, she is always around. But now it makes sense.
It's prophetic, you know.
Yeah,
It's
you're
really prophetic.
you're
That's right.
cultivating the village. You're
That's right.
cultivating the village. So what made you, y'all, she's a pastor. So one of
Mhm.
the things I want to do tonight is talk about ladies that lead. And so this is an area that we don't get a chance to chat with, and that is female pastors. I should have had Pastor Alberta on here too, um, to just talk about. So, how did you get from college? Did you decide you wanted to be a preacher, or was that ingrained in you in West Africa, or you found that here?
I found that here. As a young adult, I found that I really believe that I heard the call from God that I was called to pastor, and
Wow. Not
so
not
that
just to preach.
not just to preach, to pastor. That's correct.
Now,
I don't
is
believe I know I can preach today. I can preach now, but I would say that in the beginning it wasn't so much of a preaching assignment that I had, but rather to pastor, to lead and to guide people to the knowledge of Christ. And so that in of itself, I want to say as well that it was prophetic even in of itself. Though I had my father, he went to so I was raised Catholic, and my father he went to seminary school, and he decided halfway through that he wanted a family. So he came out of that, and that's when he came to the United States to go to college. My maternal grandfather was a pastor, but these things really did not. They really did not find themselves at the forefront of my mind until I really received the call and then realized that, I was already, being brought up to become the pastor because it's in my lineage on both my maternal and my paternal side. So when I heard the call, I told at the time my pastor, and he said the same thing. Oh, wow, pastoring and not preaching, huh? I said, that's exactly right. I heard pastoring. And
let's
it
go
moved
back.
up
We
from
have to we unpack on here. Wait a
there.
minute.
Okay.
Hold
Unpack.
on. Now, what do you wait a minute now? Where'd you come up when you say you had pastoring on both sides? What
Hmm.
do you mean by that? What like well, I mean, it's very rare for somebody to say I've been groomed or I've been reared to
Sure.
actually pastor.
Sure.
So that's a very unique thing. So let's talk about that. Where did that come from, and how did you discern that it wasn't to be a CEO? That's the same thing as leading, or or shepherding, or
Right.
to
Right.
be a professor. That is a symbol of shepherding. What is that path that you said that was already there? That's very interesting. That's very interesting.
It for me, when I go back and I start to think about some of my experiences as a child, I remember always being the one that people kind of came to. I was very shy, but yet people always came to, and I always had something good to say, and it just seemed like at the time they would come, I was there, present and ready and equipped to be able to say whatever needed to be said, and it was generally a good thing. And in my life, even though I always felt that I was not as strong as I know that I am today, I always found myself in leadership roles. And it did not it was not apparent in the church. I'm going to preface that. It was the course of my life that even exemplified itself in the secular environment. So my first career was in retail management at Walmart, and there wasn't a thing that in that space that I did not excel in. Whatever I touched, whatever I was assigned to do, whatever task I did, it always led to success, and it brought people with me.
Wow.
So people that I had an opportunity to teach, train, to guide, and they followed me. And so I knew it took some time for me to understand, but after some time, I realized that is my calling, is to be a leader, is to be one who would lead and to certainly instruct, teach, and challenge individuals with their gifting to be able to, excel and to be successful in life. And earlier on, as a younger adult, of course, then when I got back into wanting to live for Christ and not have too much fun, I realized that, it was more to my leadership training than just for me to become, as you said, the CEO. I had more to offer, more to give, and more to do than just make a bonus check.
Wow. So did you feel like this was a call when you were in your 16, 15, 14, 13, when you were in?
Absolutely.
So you really
As
felt that?
early as 8 years old. That's correct. as
OMG.
as early as 8 years, I can remember clearly. Wherever, if I was in the courtyard at home and family was there, children were there, wherever I went, if I went into the corner, everyone followed. If I went,
Wow.
if I left, people wanted to follow and go with me. And it wasn't so much of what I said or what I did. I just found myself as being the one who kind of led people to wherever I was going.
And somehow you equated that, or the spirit equated that to, I must pastor. And because that's an odd assessment to recognize, and not, and maybe it is because you are from West Africa, maybe it's because of that. But in America, first thing we think about is, oh, you're going to be a CEO, or you're going to lead a basketball team, you're going to lead whatever. Because I
Mhm,
can attest to that kind of people coming to you, talking to
mhm,
you, being a leader. But
mhm.
pastoring was not the first thing that was in what we call the shondo. That was not down in my spirit at all. So that's
Yeah,
funny that it would do that. And but that's it.
absolutely.
That's exciting. That's exciting.
I was when I was working for Walmart as a manager of stores. I was leading stores in my 30s. I went to a leadership conference, and the question was, where do you see yourself in 10 years? And I wrote, I was in my early 30s, and I wrote, in 8 years I will be retired from here. And I had not even at this point been even I wasn't even a usher at church. I was trying to make it into church as much as I could. I said I'm retiring, and so they laughed. They said, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "Because there's something else I
Gotcha.
know I will be doing. I don't know particularly what it might what it might be, but I do know that it is not in this environment."
Wow. And so to my audience, so here we are, somebody who's in their 30s and still not yet feeling in their purpose,
Mhm.
not yet. And so I'm speaking to whoever you are, that if you don't feel comfortable in where in the state you're in, and there's this yearning, there's something else there, and there may be God is calling you to do something different than what you are just doing. So this is really, really wonderful. And so you decide, I better get somewhere and get in somebody's church and figure out this thing about this calling. And
That's exactly what happened. That's right.
did you retire? Did you
I
leave?
did after, well, I'm gonna be honest. So I forgot about that. I forgot about that statement. And but 8 years to date is when I chose to let go. Honestly, I had forgotten about it until I literally said, I'm done. Because at this point, I had started ministering. I had become a pastor. And so I was new in it. And I said, there's no way I can do this work in retail management and pastor as well. But
Wow.
8 years to date, it was the
You
time.
retired.
I retired. I
You
let it
retired
go.
from
Yeah.
there. You let it go.
Yeah,
Wait a
I
minute, you
let it
did
go.
retire.
That's right.
So you were already, so that's a quick turnaround to go from 30 to becoming a pastor? What is that transition like? Where did you go back to Catholicism to do that, or
No,
what was
no,
that
no,
journey? Because
no.
that's
So
a
I
quick
found
journey.
myself, I found myself, I was associated with the Pentecostal denomination. I was part of a Pentecostal church. And I'm going to be honest. So I decided to get back in the church. I never forget, and a colleague invited me to their church. And when I got there, the first day I was there, in the middle of service, the pastor and his sister-in-law have an argument. I mean,
Wow.
there's a fallout in the middle of service. So I leave there, and my colleague is so embarrassed. And I say, "Oh no, honey, I want to come back and find out what happens. I
Wait a
want
minute.
to see how this thing comes out. It turns out." So I came back, and I never left.
Now that's what I would do. I'd be like, "Wait a minute, they throwing down. Let me go back
I
and
want to know
find out
what's
what,"
going on. Mhm.
and never left, and
Never left.
got your training there,
Yes,
and moved on and accepted that calling. That's
correct.
not the saints. That's a quick little vibe there.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm with you, to know that you had a specific direction to follow. That's a
that's right.
very uh, interesting thing, because some people are still, even at a later age, still
Mm,
trying to find out what
find out.
that is, and
Yes,
take that chance.
that's right.
So, the $1 million question: what was it like? Now, geographically, were you in a good place that received women pastors?
No, not at the time. It was very difficult. There was nothing that was challenging about, um, going through the training, going through the initial sermon. But when it came down to ministering to others and uh, being regularly in the pulpit, that became an issue. It was always challenging, and always had to be prepared to be asked to leave the seat that you're sitting in after you had been assigned that seat and sit somewhere else. And generally, that was in the back. Um,
Wait
it,
a minute.
it
Let's unpack that. Let's unpack that. What do you
that's
mean by
true. That's real. Or what you will preach. You will preach this, and you won't preach that. Um,
that? Wow.
yes, yes.
That dogmatic?
Absolutely. When I was my first year as a pastor, my overseer, I went to him and I said, Pastor, I have this engagement that I'm invited to, and it was a seven last words service, and so it
Uh-huh.
was. Several preachers coming to preach. Well, he did not believe in that. He said, that hype is for those that just enjoy, the hoop during the 10-minute portion.
Right.
And so that was a refusal. It was very embarrassing because it was my first year, and I was trying to engage pastors in Rockingham and in Hamlet area. So it was difficult to really carry myself as a leader when I had to come back and say, this is not going to happen because somebody is telling me, even though I'm a pastor, that I cannot participate in these types of
Wow.
services.
Now, was Rockingham your first pastorate? Was this your first assignment?
It was, yes,
Wow.
yes,
See,
yes.
if you had asked me, I'd have told you about that in Rockingham. No, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
And you would have told me they got only family churches over there.
Listen, and I'd have told you about them people down there in Rockingham.
Yeah.
But that is a hard place to begin, especially
Yeah.
when you're talking about a woman pastor. They were usually the Pentecostals were able to do that, but in our rearing, Marcella is on here. She's a good friend. At least she was. She's a good friend that we've been friends, I know, for 30, 40 years, whatever it is that we are now, since like seventh, eighth grade, whatever it is. And
Mm,
I can probably put on one hand women who pastored when I grew up.
mm,
Uh,
yeah.
I mean, just on one hand, I didn't. We didn't know that. We didn't see
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It has always been a male dominated um, place, and
Absolutely.
so for you to be able to do that, but I went through that too, but not as a pastor. You just go. I went through that as like an elder, stuff
Hmm.
like that, where
Hmm.
he's no, you can't go, this, that, and the
Right.
other. But I did not know. I figured by the time you became a pastor, you could kind of do what you need to do and
Oh,
not
yeah.
have to get that kind of permission.
Not
Wow.
at all. Not at all.
So
No.
did you have to sit? You said you had to be in a seat, and then they would take you out of the seat.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We would have a procession in coming into services, of course, and I would have my assigned seat. But at any given moment, if someone was uncomfortable, and generally that would have been maybe a guest male preacher, and I would be asked to move and go towards the back. Absolutely.
Yeah. Now listen, let's deal with that because Evelyn, a lot of people have been taught that was a man's role,
Mhm.
but when you actually go to uh, I'll let you, Pastor, talk about this. What made you know that it wasn't just a man's role? What made you textually, if you will, I'll let you talk about that. That
Right.
it wasn't just a man's role. What made you want to continue to do that?
I know it's taboo, but to be honest, it is the calling, as I said it. It's the purpose that I know I'm called to do. For me, it wasn't a matter, although there have been difficulties and still at times, you have to understand the environment that you are in and how to carry yourself. Um, there was nothing that was going to stop me
Wow.
um, in pursuing my calling, my God given purpose. Um, it was not easy in Rockingham, not at all. It was very challenging. A church that seemed to have grown overnight, and then all of a sudden, everything just fell apart. And when it fell apart, it fell apart. And people didn't have a problem sharing their concerns about having a woman pastor leading people. But for me, my prayer had always been to the Lord. You called me to this. Now, if it's to me, if it's for me to tell my problems how big my God is, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And so if you call me to this is not my problem. This is for you, God, to make way out of this, and he did. And his way was to lead me to where I am today in Forsyth County. At the time, I did not quite understand why the challenges in Rockingham, and trying to hold on to what I believe was my calling and what I needed to hold fast to. But God knew when He led me to Forsyth County, Winston-Salem, that He was preparing me for where I am today at Exodus United Baptist Church. And I there were times of growing weary, but not enough to faint in the process.
Lord. So we got to talk about that, y'all. All right. So you get an opportunity to grow weary, but when
Yes,
you have purpose, you
yes.
cannot faint.
You
God,
cannot faint. You
listen,
cannot
y'all.
faint.
Well, as the young folks say, that's a bar. That's a bar. That's a
Okay.
you get to be weary,
Yes,
but you
yes.
cannot
You
faint.
cannot faint. You have to believe there is something about purpose, your God given purpose, that always calls you to pursue, to press on, because there's always this pressure that's always behind you.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know that there's never a moment, even in your time of weariness, that you don't feel this pressure
Yeah.
that always says, keep moving forward.
Yeah.
I was about to close the doors of Crossing Red Sea Ministries in Rockingham, and I never forget the call. So my parents are retired, and they lived in California. But retirement in California, living off of retirement in California is almost impossible.
Right.
And it just so happened that my parents, when my daughter was born, they had purchased some land in Rockingham.
Wow.
And so I owned it over all the years. So 25 years later, they've been now in North Carolina for going on 6 years. 25 years later, um, at a moment that I'm praying and I'm asking the Lord, is this the time to close the doors? I never forget, my mother calls and she says, "Child, how's church going?" I said, "Well, I think this is the moment. This is the moment that things just have to, we need to shut this thing down." And she says, "Well, no, the Lord spoke to me and said that I needed to come to North Carolina to help you." Said, "I don't know what kind of help that is, but I'm called to come help you."
Wow.
And so my parents moved here 6 years ago.
Wow.
They moved to North Carolina, and that land that they had purchased 25 years earlier, it is the place where they have built their house and where they live in Rockingham, North Carolina.
Who, me and my sisters have this conversation all the time. How in the world did they find Rockingham? Because you are not going, you don't,
Well, they didn't find it. I did.
the world. Who?
Yeah.
Who? Because we were trying to figure out what in the world drew them to Rockingham.
Yeah, they weren't drawn to Rockingham. I was there. They just happened. They came to see their child, and I just happened to be there. So, yeah. So they purchased land. They're living in their home that they built on this land, and in my mother's assignment was just to do that, to help support in the process of transition. So for five
Wow.
years, I'm still wondering, what is this? When is the change?
Right.
When
Right.
is the change? In the meantime, I am, of course, applying to different churches because I had this, of course, this feeling that I needed to be around here. So
Got you.
I was wondering if I moved the ministry, because I'm still holding on to this purpose. I'm still holding on to this calling. Does the church move locations, or do I find a new home? And God made it happen. He opened the doors for a new home, and and I'm grateful, and I'm just grateful.
That is so interesting. This is we have a kindred thing because, of course, growing up in Rockingham, growing up Pentecostal, and now
Mhm.
pastor a Baptist church, and so you did a pastorate in growing up in West Africa. I mean, yeah, in West Africa, was on the West Coast. You found your way to Rockingham, and you Pentecostal, and now you pastor a Baptist church. So we have this 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 kind of little tread, this little road that we on.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
that's a powerful thing. Tell me about what you've learned
Mhm.
as a leader,
Mm.
because like skills, things that a young 17-year-old need to be looking for, leadership skills, something that you and outside of the you get to be weary, but you can't faint.
You can't
What
faint.
else? What else did you do? Are there some practical things that you live by as it pertains to leadership,
Mhm.
that you can share?
Well, absolutely. For me, it's important to be humble. Um, as one who is called to be a leader, when you understand that that is your assignment to be a leader, it is important to be humble. You have to be humble because um, there is no one perfect, and really leadership is not developed without people. It is developed with people. It is not
Correct.
until the people are there that you really develop into the leader in the way you handle yourself and address issues and take the lead. I think it's important to be humble, and I think it's important as we understand, when we're called to be a leader, is to show up. You have to show
Mm,
up. You
yeah.
cannot be afraid to show up.
Yeah.
And when you show up, stay your lane. Talk only about what you know.
Yeah.
That that is the most impressive way to make, and it's the best way to gain influence is when you talk about what you know. If you choose to talk about everything else that you're not familiar with, you lose people. When Jesus was on assignment, he spoke of only what he was here to do and nothing else.
Good stuff.
Yeah. And so it's to talk about what you know and to be consistent at it. So you once you start in the process, you have to be consistent and you have to be genuine with it. Don't show up as someone else. Be your authentic self in
I agree.
everything.
I agree 100%. And that's why, most people will know, and we'll talk about our transition and how we got to those places. That'll
Mhm.
be interesting. Um, but being your authentic self and just being true to yourself is needful. I was just having a conversation earlier today about areas that I'm not strong in as
Mhm.
when it comes to leadership.
Mhm.
I was just having this conversation today,
Yeah.
um, and like it's areas that I know that I'm just weak in those areas, and it is probably what I've gone through in my life,
Absolutely.
but the concept of what I think leadership is,
Mhm.
and to me, leadership is a whole lot of fellowship,
Mhm.
you know. To That's to me,
Yeah. Yeah.
and being committed to the thing.
Yes.
Because if somebody has to force your commitment, then you
Mm.
are really not following,
No,
and you're not being an effective leader. So
that's
I'm twisted in that concept in my mind. So I'm looking for anything I can do to be a better leader. Um, and you did all of this. What? Tell me the dynamics as a female. I'm not one of those, and pastoring and preaching can be. It was all. So I'll be honest. I'll be transparent.
yeah. Be transparent. Yeah. There you go.
When I the Pentecostals that I grew up in didn't have any interaction with the Baptists.
That's right.
So when I took the assignment to be a Baptist, I lost
Yes.
Pentecostal friends
Yeah. That's right.
because they didn't think that there was a that they crossed. So to
Correct.
my audience, there's something behind the veil that you all should know. There's a
Mhm.
lot of Pentecostals who don't feel like Pentecostals should be in the Baptist. But what
Right.
I found out is there's a lot of Baptists who don't feel like that the Pentecostals should be there.
That's right.
So I had a tough road of losing the connection with the Pentecostals and not really being accepted in
Mhm.
with the Baptists.
Mhm.
Uh, I'll never forget this at my ordination. Did you go through Rowan to get ordained
I
and all that?
did.
I did too.
I
Let me
did.
I ain't talking about y'all, Rowan. I'm here. I'm down like 4 flats now. But
Mhm.
the preacher said this. The preacher said this the night I was being ordained. All right.
Mhm.
He said, we need to have this conversation. I mean, this is in the pulpit. We need to have this
Mhm.
conversation as to why the Baptists are not leading
Yes.
Baptist churches.
Uh-huh.
And he said, Baptist preachers dress in black with a white shirt and a black tie. That's your uniform. And we need to talk to these other churches to find out why these other denominations are being. And he was laying it on. Boy, I was rolling because I'm secure in myself and I knew
Right.
I had an assignment. But that is that kind of stuff that really goes on. So what happens with a female,
Mhm.
and what obstacles did you come up against uh in your transition, even with Pentecostal and Baptist?
Right.
That's interesting.
Absolutely. So it's funny you say that because you say you lost a lot of Pentecostal friends and followers, but I didn't because um, as pastor of Crossing Red Sea Ministries, I was under an organization that was Pentecostal. but we broke ties.
Got you.
We broke ties. And because um, of the concerns that I had of um, in the disregard for myself as a woman pastor.
Got you.
Um, and so when we broke ties, something happened, and this becomes a transparency that I don't generally share, but it's truth. Um, so when that happened, I was married at the time, and so when my church broke ties, and the church was packed full, it broke my home.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It broke my home.
Oh yeah.
And so I went from Pentecostal to non-denomination
Yep.
because that's what I established Crossing Red Sea Ministries as. So coming to Forsyth County, I came on a gap season for me. What I'm saying is it had been at the time that I had let go of Walmart, and I had wanted to take an entire year off. But having worked so much in the way that I did in that environment, I became bored after 6 months. And so I was looking for anything to do because I thought that pastoring was going to take up all of my time. But I was experiencing I was experiencing, a broken home, and I was
Right.
experiencing brokenness with the church that I was affiliated with.
Yeah.
And so I happened to come to Forsyth County on a Vista AmeriCorps assignment. For those of you that don't know what that is, it's a volunteer paid program
Hmm.
from the government. And so I took that, just launching into this space to get myself busy, to have a little change, and just to establish myself here. And my supervisor at one of our meetings asked, so if there's any person that you wanted to get in contact with or get to know in Winston, who would that be? I said, I want to get in touch with pastors. I want to be in that circle. And so I was introduced to the Ministers Conference of Winston-Salem and vicinity. And even though the Ministers Conference today is ecumenical, it comes out of the Baptist organization,
Correct.
right? And so
Correct.
I am groomed in this space, and I'm learning not just how to. I am learning how to continue to pastor at a distance, but I'm also familiar. My colleagues now are mostly pastors
Yep.
that pastor Baptist churches.
Yes.
So for me, I'm very familiar now, and even in my non-denominational church, I'm starting to practice these same type of, practices that Baptist churches do. So I became familiar. For me, I was, uh, my hardship was not what you experienced, but I did experience it. That was from the breakups of in my home and
Oh
with
yeah.
my former organization. So I lost them about 12 years ago.
Oh yeah. Look, I lost that too. I I lost that too, so I understand. You
Right.
you you break away from that, and then they don't want to be connected, and you got to do
Mm-mm,
something else. And so I
mm-mm,
spent 14 years having
mm.
friends and connections, and then all of a sudden I had nothing. So I was
Right.
out there on a limb, and having to really find his voice for myself
Mhm.
and my method of how to do a thing,
Right.
and that was the rediscovery. So
Right.
every so to Miss Evelyn, she asked the question. She said, "Don't we serve the same God or the same teachings?" The challenge is we do serve the same God, but it's not necessarily the same interpretation
That's right.
when you get to the text. Everybody has different interpretations, which is why you have to be surrounded by good leaders
Right.
so that they can properly interpret the text
Mhm,
for you.
mhm.
Sometimes people are archaic in their interpretation of the text, and they do not want to live in the revelation of the text. And
All right.
so,
Preach, Pastor.
yeah, I just try to educate people
That's
that
right.
it's not what you think, because they box us into these things to make us be a certain way,
Right.
and different denominations are there for
Mhm,
different reasons, and it is
mhm.
because there are different interpretations
Yeah,
of what people have read in the text,
that's
and
right.
some people uh, like Pastor uh, Tembila. I like that Tembila.
Mhm,
Uh, the way she's interpreted the text, the way I interpret the text.
mhm.
You will not believe that some people, when I first started this, didn't un- didn't understand this type of ministry
Right.
from behind the veil. They always wanted me to be behind the pulpit, or
Mhm.
they want you to sing. But there are different facets of the interpretation when it comes to the text. And so if you have a small mind, you'll have a limited concept of the text. So that's I wanted to just share that, get that out. And so you come around and again you go from, because I remember you coming around. I remember when you first, I mean, you came around and I started seeing you, and then next thing I know, you leading the whole ministers conference. What the what? What's going on? I mean, you go you go from just kind of getting your footing. And I don't remember you having a pastorate at the time, or you weren't at Exodus.
I was not at Exodus. I was pastoring. I had always come into Forsyth County. I was already a pastor at Crossing Red Sea Ministries.
Correct.
Yes,
Correct.
I just moved here for the AmeriCorps Vista assignment because they needed those volunteers to be uh, residing in the counties they were working in,
Got you.
and so I opted to commute instead of turning it down.
Got you.
Yes,
Got you.
I
And so
decided to do that.
that's why I was seeing you around. And that was probably
Mhm.
around the time where I don't know how many moons ago that was, but I was just starting, because my first assignment was in Thomasville, in
Okay.
Thomasville. So I was not here. I
Mhm.
was in Thomasville like 7 or 8 years. My mother had to do the same thing that you did. She had to leave out of Rockingham and she started a Bible study.
Mhm.
And that's what was the formation of the church of Mount Zion in Thomasville. And so
Okay.
I go to the Thomasville church,
Mhm.
um, and that's where I started that training. So I was disconnected. So by the time I got ready to reconnect, when I got to Goodwill, I was trying to find my footing at the ministers' conference. I knew
Right.
some people who were on the conference, so I would try to pop in. I think Alvin was there at the time. Alvin
Yes.
Carlisle
Mhm. Yes.
was, and I think he was a president or something at one point in time, or
He was a vice president.
yeah, or
Mhm.
something. And
Yeah.
so he was trying to engage me since I had Goodwill, and I think I
Mhm.
saw you then, and,
Yeah.
but I was like, "She wasn't pastoring here," and
Mhm.
so you stayed the course, and,
I
I
did.
went on back out to Goodwill, and
Okay.
and you go into this leadership role. How is that leading ladies leading? How is it the lady leads?
Well, it did not happen overnight. I will tell you that I came into the ministers' conference. At the time that I came in, there were probably about 4 women that were consistently coming. At the time, Reverend Willard Bass was the president, and he asked me to be a part and to be more active in the role. And I told him, I said, I don't know if I could stay a part of this group. All I see these men doing is sitting down, introducing themselves every Tuesday. Somebody preaches something halfway, and then we leave. I said, what are we doing? I
Yeah.
can wait till Sunday for that. And
Right,
he,
right, right.
I never forget what he said. He said, well, if you don't like it, change it. And
Oh,
that right there sparked.
that was the challenge. That
That
was
was
it.
the challenge.
Yeah,
What you
that was
say?
it.
Okay,
What you say?
change it.
If you don't like
Right.
it, change it. I love it.
Exactly. So I accepted the role as secretary. At the time, Bishop Fulton was president, so I
Oh, yeah.
I was secretary to Bishop Fulton, and then from there on, just kind of took different roles as vice chair up into president. I was elected the president in 2019, and had an opportunity for 2 years. But of course, COVID came, and I felt cheated out of my opportunity to leave the organization, especially after all I had been through. My Lord! And so I asked. I had the favor of the committee to be voted in again, and so had an opportunity as the first woman to be voted in for 2 terms.
What you say?
So I did.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Woo.
Thank you. Thank you. So I am certainly, I had a great run. I enjoyed everything that took place. I believe that I set the ministers' conference on the path to be able to do some even greater things, and certainly looking forward to seeing Reverend Dr. Keith Vereen do that as he is now the new president.
Dr. Vereen is the new president. What you
He
say?
is. He
What
is.
you say? I know him too. Yeah,
Yeah.
ran into him too. So leadership style. What's yours?
Now, now you're trying to get very academic on me, but no, my leadership,
Hey,
my
look,
leadership style is really
we
um,
behind the veil.
we
We
work
got
together. We work together. I'm the one. You know, my initial sermon was about servitude, servant leadership, and that's how my leadership is. I don't ask anyone to do anything that I would not put forth the effort in doing first myself, and even to perfecting it before even engaging and asking others to do it. That's just who I am. I believe that we have to be the example. We have to set the pace, and we have to set forth, the passion and what we're aiming for, so that people become believers in the goal and the purpose of what we're striving for, and joining together.
That's a good deal. Yeah. I'm learning every day. I love what you were saying earlier, making sure you stay in your lane and the consistency, being
That's right.
seen, making sure that you're consistent. Of
Mhm.
course, trying to stay as humble as you possibly can, uh, and then staying as strong as you possibly can,
Oh
because
yeah.
you have to be humble, but people misinterpret this kind of position of leadership. It's not
Yeah.
egotistical. It really is confidence in that we were called to do a thing.
Absolutely.
So we have to
Absolutely.
walk in a certain certainty, if you
That's right.
will. But
Absolutely.
we do understand that it doesn't come from us. Like, I mean, the call is from him, and
Absolutely.
he just uses us to make sure we're an example.
That's
And
right.
I try to tell people that we're not, they get on me all the time. You so arrogant. You just you talk about everything. I said I only talk about the stuff I know. If
That's
you don't
right.
want to answer from me, don't ask me something that I have read up on or that I know,
That's right.
and I won't give you an answer. But
Abs-
if
Absolutely.
but if you
That's
ask
right.
me, I'm gonna
Mistakes
say.
happen when you talk about stuff you don't know.
But look, I don't talk about stuff I don't know. But if you ask me, but I
That's
try to
right.
be well read, and I try to make sure I stay up to date on things
Mhm.
and reason. I'm not a financial advisor, so don't ask me nothing about stocks and bonds.
There are experts for that.
We have experts for
That's
that.
right. We have experts for that.
Don't know nothing about doctoring and low. I don't know nothing. I didn't know gallbladders and stuff. I don't do that stuff. Don't ask. But
We
you
could
ask
pray
me
through
something
this
about
thing together, though.
if you ask me about prayer, and if you ask me about the text, uh,
I
any
got you.
facet of
That's
church,
right.
I
That's
got
right.
your back. I got
That's
you.
right. Amen.
I got. So you are being celebrated like crazy because of your work, and you are definitely being little village. Like you really are gathering. It seems to be natural for you to be around um, people
Mm,
together,
yeah.
to be able to influence
Mm,
with that. And I wanted to definitely celebrate you for
thank you.
that.
Thank
because
you.
I've seen you pull just everywhere. I don't talk. I don't talk. I don't speak. Just kind of wave and we greet, but I keep my eyes. I try to
Yeah.
keep my eyes on who's moving and who's doing what.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So we celebrate you for all of that.
Thank you.
Um, to the young girl who got this
Mm,
crazy call, uh, who
mm,
feels like this is what she needs to be doing, and you're her example. Can you talk to
mm.
this young lady?
Yeah.
Can we talk to her for a
Yeah.
moment?
Wow. Mm. Ooh.
This lady says you have a lot to offer, especially
Oh,
with your
bless you.
background. Yes,
Bless
she
you.
does.
Bless you. Thank you so much. I would tell to the younger me, be patient. That's the first thing. Be patient and don't worry about the naysayers. As long as you have God on your side, you will be fine. And understand that the mistakes, the failures are there not to break you, but to make you.
Mm,
And don't count them as a loss, but as a gain. Because I've had as an adult, not now, but some years ago, uh, I I had this guilt for failed relationship.
got you. Yeah,
Right? I had this strong guilt for that. I had guilt for not continuing on after I said I was done at Walmart making a lot of money. I had guilt, especially when I went from six figures to no figures. Um,
mm,
so there was, there was a lot of guilt. There was a lot of shame. I had a lot of shame even when I moved to um, Forsyth County, not being educated.
got
Um, I had not completed my higher education. And it wasn't until I moved here that I realized that this was not the place that you came around and moved up without education. So it was important. So I would tell her, don't discount the failures as loss, but rather look at them as what makes you, because they became challenges for me.
you. Hmm.
Every time there was a failure, it was another challenge to say, I got to make it right. We
Hmm.
got to do better the next time. We gotta see how this can look better at, and certainly be successful um, in the next time. So I certainly would ask her to be patient and not be so discontent because of failures, because those are the ones that made me who I am today.
Good deal. Please, yeah, and that's. I mean, to my audience, please.
Mm,
Um, it is the failures that really do. You won't believe how
mm,
much the failures
mm.
defined you. You
Yeah,
won't believe that
absolutely.
because you'll think it's over,
Hmm.
but it's the failure that really shape you and make you,
Absolutely.
and you can see yourself.
Yes,
You
yes,
get to find you in the failure, and you'll find him in
yeah,
the failure. You'll find
absolutely.
him. God knows you'll find him. God knows.
Absolutely.
What education did you end up doing? Where did you go and what did you do?
So I went to Shaw U for my undergrad in philosophy and religion. And then I went to A&T for education and agriculture.
Oh, good deal.
Mhm.
Are you gonna go after? Are you gonna be doctor?
You best believe it. I'm working. I've been working on it. You best believe it.
Of course you are.
I'm going to earn that one and maybe be able to be honored with another. I don't know.
Shawnee, get off of here. Talking about Aggie pride. Really?
Aggie pride, honey.
Shawnee,
Aggie pride, Aggie
don't
pride.
do it. Don't do it, Shawnee. Don't do it.
That's right. That's right.
Don't do it, Shawnee. Don't do it. These clowns. Boy, I love my crew. I love my crew of people, boy. They are so funny. Listen, eh, I'm so grateful for just to be able to hear your story and your transition, to be able
Thank
to do it. And to the ladies, I just want to talk to you all. There's still time. There's still
you.
time for you
Still
to
time.
lead. There, Cannon, you put Aggie Pride on here too. When did you?
Aggie
When
pride. That's right.
really, Cannon? I need y'all. I did
It's
not know this. It's
it's the,
what is
it's
this?
the village. It's the village.
What is
Stop.
this foolery?
Yes,
This is
let the village
foolery.
speak. Let the village speak.
Oh God, get this through. Not Ram, but really Cannon on this platform. Really, you know, these people. Amen. They know I'm Winston-Salem State all day long, and I'm repping the red and black today, and
I
they
see.
and
I
they
see.
just they coming strong today. This my people
Absolutely.
though. It's my people. Listen, I just wanted to make sure that I give you an opportunity to just share your story and share your obstacles. Um, your future looks bright, and so wait a minute. How'd you get to Exodus? How'd you get to Exodus?
How I got to Exodus. Well,
Thank you, Marcella. Ram for life. Yes, got me at least
love
one.
you too. Love you too. But the village says we love you too. Yes. Well,
Why Exodus? Why
I
why did
just
you not
happened
go
to,
somewhere else?
well, social media has its way of sharing a lot of good information. And I happened to see my brother, he was starting something new. And so
Yes.
when he started, I said, well, what's going on at Exodus?
Yeah.
And so I got in contact with some folks that I knew were going there, and the rest was history.
Good
Just
for you.
yeah, the rest was history. So
Good for you.
I'm blessed. I believe this is the path. I mean, it just aligns with where I started at Crossing Red Sea Ministries, straight out of the book of Exodus. I believe I'm on the right path.
You on the right path right
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
So I'm going to allow. I want to thank you so much for allowing me to just kind of interview you, but
Thank,
celebrate you at the same time.
thank you so much. Thank you
And
so, so
and we are watching, and I just wanted you to know you are, you people are looking for you. You're an example in the community.
thank
We
you.
don't get an opportunity to say it, and so I use my platform to just make sure people know, because everybody wants to interview Oprah, but but they want Steve Harvey. They want to be,
Yeah.
but we have stories that are right here locally that people
Mhm.
need to hear, that God is doing some amazing things, even even if we don't fly in jets, we don't own jets, but
Right.
there is still something
Mhm.
that people need to be celebrated. And
Yeah.
I'm thank you so much for coming on this platform and sharing
Thank
your story. I want to give you whatever final words you want to say to us, because anything else you want to cover, because we covered probably more than you had anticipated.
More than enough. More than enough. Well, I just want to thank you so much for this opportunity to come and share. And certainly to all the women that are in ministry, as you stated, as you summed it up, it's never too late. And you cannot discount yourself having failed once, having failed twice, even having failed three times. As long as you know that the Lord is pushing you towards your purpose, you need to keep staying the course, because God will never leave you. He will never forsake you in the process, even when you don't do right. So I just wanted to encourage you and know that God has already made a plan to use you in that the right time, and you will soar. It's not just a in the moment. situation. You're going to have an opportunity to soar. I believe that.
Listen, I out of the mouth, and she is doing great things, and you can tell we did not get into a whole lot, but you can tell on her journey there's been some valleys and there's
Yeah.
been some mountains. There's been some more valleys right behind them mountains.
Oh, so
And,
many.
I mean, it's just been ebbs and
Mhm.
flows, and
Mhm.
she's still doing great things. And so I just wanted to make sure that I gave you, let people know, come on over here behind the veil, and we celebrate people here who's
Thank you.
doing great work. And you are certainly one of them. You're getting ready to be honored, I think, by Cheryl. Is it Cheryl Lindsay? Is that her?
That's
That her
right.
name? I
Yes.
saw I saw the flyer, and you're being celebrated as an ambassador. And so
Yeah.
uh, I commend you, and
Thank you.
have a we hopefully we'll get a chance to fellowship and do some things together
Absolutely.
in
Absolutely.
upcoming years to come,
Yes. Let's
and
do it.
we'll,
Yes.
we'll get that done. And so
Absolutely.
I look forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Y'all
so
show
much.
some love out here in the
Mm.
thing for Tembila. Tembila,
Ah,
Pastor Tembila. I like that. Christina Covington. And thank you so much for being the dynamic woman that you are. Y'all, it's time for us to go. We don't my people are just clowns. They starting to clown, so I need to get them off, especially Cannon. Uh, I got to get out of here. Y'all, yeah, that's right. Show her some love, and we appreciate her for being on Behind the Veil. Listen, I'm Stephen Williams. They call me the good bishop, and ain't nobody good but our God. He is all that. Thank you for Pastor Tembila and all that she is doing in our community to uplift it and to be a leading lady. And she's making a wonderful difference. Thank y'all. Until the next time, y'all join me next week as we go to. We got one more guest next week, and then the week after that we'll be clowning like crazy. Thank y'all so much, and until our next appointed time, thank you for joining me behind the veil. Bye bye, y'all.